that.
So we record the meeting just so I can. So we can have that. Right, just. She and Megan will be fine. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And Rebecca Edwards and Megan Dykstra are coming, but they'll be a little bit. We stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We need approval of March 4th, 2024 minutes. Do I have someone to approve those? Does anyone look them over?
So moved. Second.
They are approved.
All
All in favor?
You failed the first test.
Next says we're moving on. Number 2. Do we have anyone who would like to speak from the public?
I'd like to introduce Erin after we get to my report, because
Okay.
she's been helping us with the build the problem.
Oh, great. Oh, anyone, no. No, and there's no public participation. Oh, there isn't. Ready for the plant status report?
Been quite a month, it's not my usual, but as far as the plant going, they did well. We got 11.21 MGD. The turbidity was lower than it's been as far as effluent turbidity. Average turbidity was pretty good, cleared up. All that was good. As far as the construction upgrade, the Hudson Dielectric still has to do the UPS startup. Just the backup power supply, uninterruptible power supplies. And CFI is working on a punch list, but other than that, everything's is up and going. Big thing that happened, well, 2 big things happened last month. One was the Willet pump number 3, pumping rate decreased. And sometimes that'll happen, something will come into the roll as well. And this is a picture of it that I sent out. Building mud in there. What happened was that sometimes getting in the bowl, that little thing on the bottom of the bowl comes in with it. So we went in there, found all the mud, cleaned the mud out, it's been working fine. So just had to go in and get the mud out. The big problem this month though was the filter problem.
How long did that take when they just, how long did they clean all that much? Just.
Half a day. Yeah, they flushed it out. Yeah, they pumped it out. The big thing was the Stalia filter 1 under drain. What's interesting is when you come into the filter for the first filter, and then there's 6 filters. The first one is the one that had the problem. What happened in April of 2022, this same thing happened in that the under drain failed. And what happens is there's air that comes in under the filter to clean the filter. And when the air comes in, it appears that it overpressurized the plates, and the plates on the bottom came up to the point where the media leaked down through into the UV and there other places. So what we had to do was we had to go into the filter, dig out all this that's under the, you see the second picture where everything's dug out. We even had to dig it back further than the second picture, but and under those black things that are lined up down underneath it, those are the underdrains. So they're like 2 foot by 4 foot kind of things, and they're so 8 rows of those underdrains had to be replaced that were damaged. And it was caused likely by high pressure from underneath. What's happened, this is not, I guess, what I did was that we went and fixed this all thing. We got it to the point where it's all grouted back in, and we're letting it sit this week, and we're gonna bring it back online this week, the filter. What happens, you can see the media off the side here on that picture, it's all jumbled up. It's all jumbled up. What happens is because they're different specific weights, Once we bring it in line and we backwash it, lift it, what'll happen is this will go, it'll separate. So the sand settles faster than the carbon. So we can take this and make it back to the normal filter by just the back. We don't have to do anything with that. We did have to order some material. Right now, we're into it for about $19,000 as far as costs to repair it. Initially thought I'd really ask for the contingency fund, but I think right now, I just want everybody to remember, we're in 19,000, we're expecting. We'll keep going through the year right now. I don't think we need to really transfer. One of the things that he did though, is we're trying to figure out if this is gonna happen again. What's happened is if this happened to more than one filter at a time, we would be in a lot of trouble.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't want this to continue to happen. So right now, I talked with Erin of Ty and Bond about what she thinks and what, to give me some information. And, Erin, you wanna give an update?
Hi, so thanks for having me. We did look at this a little bit in April of 2022, but at that time we were trying to resolve some other issues. But we actually have 3 other facilities that have the exact same filter plate about the same installation age, which they were installed between 2001 and certified by the vendor in 2002. So they've been in service for over 20 years at this point. While a burst of excessive pressure is something that was suspected at the other facilities, it was identified as grout failure. So the installation technique they use, think about your bathroom grout to hold these plates in place. Another failure was a retaining bolt failure. And then excessive pressure was suspected, but one of our facilities put gauges on and then found low transient pressures. It just that they were getting to this age and failing. So this is the Aquarian Water Company in Connecticut, Regional Water Authority, and a third facility in Rhode Island that actually they're replacing their filters right now. So what we're recommending, it seems like, and these are all suitably sized, similar municipal facilities. So what we're strongly recommending to Randy is that an evaluation is done. This kind of where we've picked up with those other 3 facilities, looking at now, generally, this is something that would have been installed 20 years ago. Stainless steel under drains are really what everyone's installing now. And they're not going to have grout failures and pop up because they're, a very rigid material that's going to have a larger service life. So identifying, what we'd recommend is the plant do an evaluation of there's multiple products. Which product would be the best product? What's going to fit in? Is the media depth appropriate? And is there anything else auxiliary, such as the valving and instrumentation that needs to be upgraded at the same time? So do an evaluation and get an opinion of probable cost. So then the board can start budgeting for upgrading or replacing the filters. Because based on these 3 other facilities we're familiar with, once they started to go, I think we've seen in the past, one might be the most challenged, but they're probably constructed. So getting a plan on the books to know how to approach this and do rehabilitation, and being able to prepare and budget for that.
When this happened with number 1 initially, last April 2022, the question was grout. This is the first filter that was installed. And when they were taking it apart, they found that the grout was not as sturdy, as solid as it should have been. So that was part of what we came up with there. When they came in and did this one, they came up with a piece of grout that was really soft. So again, we're kind of like, if it's just soft, the grout in filter 1, maybe it's not all so bad because it's only happened in filter 1. Filters 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 have not had any problems. So, but we want to do is we're going to go in and go into the other filters and inspect that area because it's right where the filter begins. So it's right where the first air comes in and it goes in. But it appears that we need some assistance to look through that and to find out where do we really want to make a recommendation where we want to go. And since Erin's been working with us, I asked her to come in and she says that if she wants to get something together, she could do a proposal to put all the stuff and things we're doing there for like 30 to 35,000. So
Just to clarify, mine just have 6 rows of them did pop, so did come loose.
8
And-
rows.
And I did look in the filter and I could.
Yeah.
I could. Move the ground. I could move the ground with my scratching it, so it definitely is loose ground.
And it's interesting, Leopold, the manufacturer, was here during filter 1 and wasn't here for the rest of them. Or maybe the contract, we had a good contract, and I wasn't concerned about the contract, so something happened. Hopefully it's limited to number 1, but what Aaron's finding out is this is, the filter life is 20 years. And that we might have to think about how we're gonna go forward with this, and probably a filter's like $250,000.
Do the filters operate in series or in parallel?
In parallel.
So as the administrator of the, water project, the city is now in capital planning season, and so, as we discussed last month, we've encouraged Randy to put his capital projects together. Randy, I guess this is at least 2 projects now we could be submitting, right?
Yep.
So, and the other one, just for refresher, was what, 2.3, 2.4 million?
Yeah, that's-
Of the time, right?
The tank, yeah,
Thank you, the rest of the tank, so that's got,
I think it's like 3 million.
okay, 3, we'll have to work through EFC and then, that has implications for, we go into full borrowing. EFC appears to be updating their processes, as we saw with the, third-party water agreement that was held up. So we'll have to, the, capital plan is due to our council on June 1st. That's our timeline right now. You guys are still on a calendar this year too as well. Okay, so that works. So, I think that makes sense, so that we're finishing our capital plan and then moving into a regular budget season. But I think it's wise for us to continue to proceed now on our second year, third year of actually doing capital planning. So,
I think whatever preventative stuff you can do is always better, get an idea, at least you're prepared for it, without a doubt.
We've talked so much about increased turbidity and all the sediment from the, like all these rainstorms over February, March, January, February, March. Is this just circumstantial that they broke both times around April, or is that's just time? This is totally circumstantial.
If anything, I would think that maybe that would do it would be cold water. It wouldn't be the particles,
Okay.
but it's been cold, the water's been really cold, so that could have an effect on it to make it a little.
But the volume doesn't change. What goes through the filter is always a steady amount, right?
Right,
Okay.
and it's a steady volume usually before it gets to be clean. Aaron, you got something?
I just wanted to, the previous funding source that was, it matched for the UV project, the VIA is open now. And I think it's June 14th is the application date.
yeah, so I think, Time Bond was involved, I think, heavily in the last, interface with EFC. So what I'd like to do is to maybe offline, we begin to help Randy even maybe put together these applications. You're absolutely spot on. Thanks for bringing that up. Should not miss this opportunity.
So as you know, the PER is the preliminary engineering report plus the company. Yeah. So that'd be quick work on the filter under drain, but I'm wondering about the tank as well. There's a report
We have that report,
that has the
Helms
EFC
report.
format.
2 months, maybe.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So as long
It's
as that's
just
in the right format with the alternative analysis.
Actually, I think I got it last board meeting.
Yeah, it was, put into the EFC format just for that reason.
There you go.
And when you're saying we, can you give me the acronym? I can't spell it.
Water Infrastructure Improvement Act, RAND, that's administered through EFC,
Right.
Environmental Facilities Authority.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so since we're on a short time now, we're gonna need a study. If we wanna go to EFC soon for a grant, then we need, for the whole project, we'll need to get that going, a study that's, can be turned in for it, which, to get it going, I would like to authorize Aaron to get that done,
Well, that's my next question is how much will that engineering report cost?
30 to 35,000.
30 to 35. We could pay for that out of your existing budget.
Right, we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's that, yeah.
So Randy, do you want to leave your 7469 line, your contract services line alone? Or do you want to hit your contingency? I think you can just go ahead and use your 7469, save your contingency.
I don't want to take the contingencies just yet.
Yep, good, right there.
So, do we agree that we can have Aaron get this report done and help us with the funding?
Go ahead and make a motion to,
I'll make a motion, the proposal for the
engineering report.
support
All in favor?
from Time Bond.
So
Oh, second, son. Get it by the end of the week.
Now you're up.
All in favor? Aye.
How did the JWP go about, how did the plan go about the actual grant writing? Do you have some, do you do the grant writing yourself? Will we have some contract with?
It's just a form.
Yeah.
So we just, Aaron filled the form out for us and that was what we did. The thing is though, once we head in this direction, you got to apply, to get the EFC approval and start getting money, they have to be approved by the council and the town board.
yeah, exactly, because then the council and the, board, will separate borrowings for their share of the improvements. So those are gonna take resolutions to, each,
Now, do you need the bond resolutions approved for the grant application?
That's,
yeah, so
that's gonna be the list right there.
Yep.
And the bond resolution have to be approved.
Both the city and the town boards have to approve a bond resolution to borrow before we submit the grant application. So
In June.
But we gotta be
June,
quick.
on June 14th. Yep, so we got a window here.
So, what is,
Aaron, let's go.
what is the role of the, council, the board's council? Are you writing the, draft bond resolutions?
Usually bond council for the two municipalities writes the.
They're not gonna write two separate ones.
Chris Shaw usually does it,
Oh, yeah, does Chris do?
I think. it's-
Yeah, Chris Shaw and Doug Goodfriend work together usually.
So
usually
what I'm
use
trying
it.
to do is understand what our practices are moving forward.
Yep.
Versus what they've been, because that is part of the administrative role. Happens sometimes, not all the time, so. You know, we can get bond counsel to work with, of course, with the city, it's not a problem. We can also at least maybe try to get her to draft something up to be used by your board council.
So how do we do that? Who contacts the two bond councils? Who gives them the details?
I will
of the-
contact bond counsel with, if you'll prepare an email, Randy.
Yeah, I mean, really the bond, so on the town side, it's a little bit more complicated because it's a water district, so you need. It's called a 202B resolution. Authorize an increase in improvement to the water district in addition to the bond resolution, so they work together. The city doesn't have.
Yeah, but we've done that before for past, you know,
Right.
things, so it's not nothing that.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, we can touch with, we can get in touch with Doug and then
Yeah.
get that done if we have the specific needs.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing Doug really needs is a description of the project, which is pretty general. And then, the amounts. And then usually what happens is the bond resolution is drafted in the amount for the total project. Because you can't borrow more than what's authorized. But any grants, the bond resolution will specifically say that the borrowing would be reduced by any grants enabled up from the FCA.
Yes,
So let's,
standard language.
that's the typical way you can borrow.
You borrow against the whole thing because you have to back the project, whole paper from the signature. So, other, piece of this though, is I want to make sure that, and I'm not sure how the water board's IUP listing works. Right,
That's also similar June date that,
so Aaron, in your experience, did the water board have its own IUP listing? Or did we add it to the city and town? IUP listings?
Single.
I think it's, I agree.
We've done it in the past, the same.
It's just one line. Yeah, I just looked at it actually. Yeah. It's true. We just looked at it for sure. It's one line. So the IUP is just listed as one line.
For the York Water Board.
Yeah.
Can't imagine that we have our own IUP though, because that is not a water board doesn't pay the bills, it's the city. of town.
I hear you, but it is on one line for the project. It's listed as one line.
All right, well, tell you what, I'll make it a point to go back and check, at least from the city's perspective. Because again, EFC has been, I think,
Absolutely, Joey. Well, so I'll send, an email with a list, because it's beyond, the resolutions are the most challenging from a coordination standpoint, but there's updated financial information for both the town and the city.
yeah, there's
It's a
a
lengthy
financial
list.
application pack that has to be done. It's not just wave your hand and here we go.
Yeah, so we'll get that action item list together. While the biggest, figuring out what the recommendation is and how much it costs.
And then- And then, as we do with everything else, we start executing the project. All of the, WP reports, AIS, and all that stuff will go through the city.
Yes, that we're just, we don't have any utilization plan or anything. It's phase.
Right. And I'm bringing that up because that's not happening right now. That needs to happen.
Do we have any borrowings currently that we're working, that we're building on?
We still have active borrows for the UV project, which we have not fully expended, and for the electric. package. Just had some perturbations over shifting money between the two projects. I'll get that resolved this last couple of weeks.
Yeah, that was, yeah, right, yeah.
27,000.
That was included into it.
DOH objected until some
Yeah,
for
that's
some
how it-
months, so I think we're past that.
Yes,
Not to show you that.
yeah, she sent a new change order, says she got Roxy going.
Yeah.
That was with her until
Yes,
that got done.
thank you.
I being redundant in saying that we should set something up to make sure this resolution goes through in a May meeting. Mid-May, second week of May, I don't know when.
I will be before that way.
I just,
Time to. Application.
I think we have a May 1st meeting, so
yeah, because I wouldn't want it any later than that.
let's aim for May.
It's already said, is there a time to just got to do the course?
I mean, we have an April 17th meeting. That would be a tight turnaround.
Yeah, there's no
Obviously, we
reason
can't put it on our agenda for April
I
17th
think-
if we've got the.
I think the most important thing is if the board is now, what I hear is there's already a recommendation to move forward pending the receipt of the engineering report. Once we get the engineer's report, we should all work city and town, get on our agenda.
Right, I'm just trying to put a deadline on that so that we don't forget and another month goes by and go.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So
that's
I
up to us.
I can circulate an email to Chris and Doug Goodfriend as far as what the board intends to do. And get at least the drafting of the bond resolutions in motion. Because as was noted, there's like other things that goes into that as far as, what current borrowings are.
Jim, if you're gonna do that, would you please send it to Chris Shaw, a copy of?
Yep,
it?
I'll copy the board.
Yeah,
and,
when it comes with one.
and then, But basically, from the drafting of the bond resolution, you can just put the number in at the very last minute.
Sure.
It's all the other information that kind of has to get compiled. And in some respects, so long as you know, Randy, if you could just send me a description.
Yeah, that's the most important, is that, short paragraph description of the project.
Right.
And the amount. And that's what we all need for bond.
Because the
resolution.
reason is that, the length of the bond depends on what
Description.
the thing that it's being borrowed for.
Right.
So I believe most water infrastructure is typically 30 years maximum, bond resolution. I know some sewers 40 years. And so that's the maximum length of the bond, but you can always borrow for a lesser time period.
Ray, just curious, what are we thinking about in terms of rough order banks and the whole project?
Oh, you're talking 3 million?
What we found?
Yeah, well, you're talking. It's 1 million for 2 filters. Yeah, maybe it's less, maybe 500. If, I'm guessing 250 per filter, 150,000 per filter, and we got 6 filters, so it's more like 3 million. I don't know, so it's 500,000, 1.5. 1.5. For if they're all 250, but we'll get another better cost once we move up forward with our study.
Did any of those other
Big list.
places go out recently on the project?
Yeah, Rhode Island's actively doing it. right
What do they,
now.
what,
I'll pull it in one.
yeah,
I was just like, I think Thursday here at
Okay.
Filter, so.
yeah, just circulate that, we'll send that along to Bond Council, that way we just have a ballpark number of what we're looking at.
I can do, sort of apples to apples.
Yeah.
You know, they're not perfectly the same, but they're a similar size facility.
And I mean, the other thing too is, the engineering report comes up with a number, and in this market, in this bidding environment, God knows what actually comes in. at
And then
the end
Randy,
of the
just
day.
so that the town also is aware, the tank project is what, 2.5%?
3.
3. So we're talking about potentially $6 million of borrowing. Split two ways. So.
One thing, when we did the UV project, when we talked about the IUP and being on the list and stuff, we weren't on the list. We never applied for the IUP. We just
Yeah, you and I
applied for
talked about that. I was kind of surprised. It's not like, okay.
Because what they do is if they have the money, they'll find the fund. So we had no problem getting the borrowing. The IUP sometimes gives the low, because it has the more of a crisis, you might get a better points and maybe a better loan. So we'll look into it.
Keep contacting, but you just stop.
Absolutely. The other resolution.
Sure.
the resolution so far, just that's not, that can be written right.
There had to be a resolution to apply and then the
And
resolution
then
to
the
borrow.
bond resolution.
Yeah,
And I think both last time we did the resolution to apply.
I think we have to, as well as the board, the JWB board needs to, so there'd be 3 resolutions to
Yeah,
apply.
I'll get like the list.
Yeah, I think
tomorrow
what
with
we'll
all
do
of
is
it.
we'll dedicate me, that's Aaron's first task. Get the schedule for what we
Yeah,
gotta
we do
do.
the list before the proposal,
Yeah.
because the list is important, just to
Yeah.
what each community.
Because that held up the loan last time a lot, because we didn't have a lot of stuff. I thought the Keith's cost.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Budget, right now, we're 25% into the year and we're 20% into expending, so we're doing fine. Nothing stands out real bad yet, so I think we'll be fine. I just want to list it for that point. As far as PSST design, I gave the proposal last week, I sent it out last board meeting. The plan was that we were gonna go out for, other quotations, request for proposals on that, for design. And construction.
One of the other things you can do in conjunction with the bond resolution is intent to bond the cost for design work. So that's one of the things that, the design work for the project, the detailed design work will be included in the bond, so you can, but you need to adopt a resolution before you expend money for that, so that should be another resolution that's part of that process.
Okay. Mhm.
Randy, did we need to go over number 5 wholesale water or?
Also water, Jim was gonna send out something to BOCES, you were gonna do it, they were approved. The BOCES one.
We had sent out a letter, I sent out an email.
I seen Bosse's got hung up with EFC or something right after the last meeting, doing good, but then something backfired. Not sure what it was now, top of my head. Yeah,
I'm
so,
not aware of any new.
yeah, it wasn't to do with us, but I think it was EFC or something like that, that they didn't get something done or something.
There was something in the health department.
It was something that kind of got them.
So you're all caught up with BOCES as far as if they don't know.
We're just waiting on EFC's.
Thought that was resolved weeks ago now.
I'll reach out to Chris.
Yeah, she was supposed to reach out to you.
Okay.
That's when you talked about it all previously.
All right, I'll reach out to Chris. I just switched firms, so it may have gotten lost in the shuffle, that's why.
The Over Rocker Road, Tunzel's water line is on track to get the new meters put in. Over the next few weeks, they'll do that. And, pretty much that'll be it, except for Walnut Hill, or, granted, we had to change out all the municipal meters. So, that'd be a good one. So,
The overrock the road is the county pump station.
that was the main one.
Right, that's the main thing.
Are there any other meters then? Is that the last?
Walnut Hills, well. Adjustment to the pit, to fit the back low and everything in. We just got the meter. That's all we did.
Veolia's handling it?
I believe it was Veolia and the engineers.
So we finished TSST
Yeah,
design.
yeah.
Anything about water board contracts?
You had asked for all the water board contracts. I don't know, did you provide it?
In that, but I don't have all of the.
So even if we have a list and then we can check off the ones that we actually have,
Okay,
but then we probably will find them in the bowels of the city and the town. We gotta collect the library of those certified water.
okay, I will get those. I've got a list, but I don't have executed copies for it.
Randy, I think, gave us a list of, we've got a chart with them all on there, but now we need to see which
See
one,
what the contracts
see what
are.
the contracts have. So I think that's right.
And also with regard to the water flow, we're doing an RFP right now. So I want to be able to give it to Tom and to, Rich DeFilip, the city engineer, whoever else, that way everybody can provide input to that RFP.
Right, the draft RFP letters went to the board and the others.
We hadn't taken any action.
Last week, no.
Yeah.
So my intent was to bring it up next and talk about the fact that, well, what the plan is that the RFP is, once if the board's good with what I proposed, then I will send them to the city for approval through the city. And then we'll get this sent out that way.
What that means is that we would then put them on, typically as the administrator, we put them up on bid deck. There's a couple other places we put them up. And, announcements, timing involved, legal timing involved. And then we'd, bring that back to Randy and Randy to explain. And probably the Tom and possibly Chris over that.
Just for reference, the board engineer last year cost us $3,750. The board lawyer cost $7,267, and the proposal for the flow study is $18,780.
So the question I had, the flow study is a one-time thing, but the engineer and the lawyer, what does the board feel about the length of time? What we do to understand, whether or not we should do an RFP. Typically would do an RFP for $3,000, which services, right? Take some time. There's low risk and the rules of competition will allow for that kind of flexibility. When we start getting up, I know a lot of municipalities have a threshold of 25, 50, 100, but there's some sort of lower threshold. So as we get into those, you trip the threshold into a one-time contract, or if you say a contract for renewals. So, if, this one that's for $7,000, figure $8,000 times 5 is $40,000. So it's really a $40,000 contract with maybe 4 or 5 renewals. I wanted to get from the board's perspective, what are you comfortable with? We're looking at a 3-year proposal, with annual renewables or 5 years.
What has it been before?
So what's been before is we saw in what Randy said, just thank you for that. There have been no contracts written since 2018.
Right. what we've done before is we assigned them to the firms. And then if some board member decided we need to go out again, we did. But other than that, we didn't. That's what happened. It was, yeah, it was, so the bill, like I said, these were awarded in 18. We're at now, so.
And so those prior contracts before 2018 had any kind of clause in them to
I
Yeah.
don't
either party
believe
to
so.
terminate or.
The attorney client, the retainer agreement that we had was that, the attorney served at the pleasure of the board. And then the board could terminate on 30 days notice, and that the attorney could terminate on 90 days notice. So that's the way, you know.
That still doesn't make it less than I mean, if you're doing a 3 or 5 year contract, it's still substantial enough that it's. the
Yeah, that's
total
where we
amount
wanted to
above the
get-
Threshold,
Wanted to get your input.
but it also doesn't mean that you're locked in for 5 years, basically.
Annual renewal, so every year we give a service provider a grade.
I think it's the first meeting of the year or something.
Yeah, that's it.
You start your year.
Exactly, Tom.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right, it's-
So an annual contract that's renewable annually?
What do you comfortable with, 3 years, 5 years?
Probably not even.
Well, 3.
3 renewable, 5 renewable.
What's been your experience?
Yeah, if you're gonna renew it every year, doesn't really matter, does it?
No, it doesn't.
You could say 1 year. You're gonna renew it every year.
Well, we say,
Well, I think it's more of an incentive for someone to apply if they think that,
Yeah, of course.
barring
You're right.
difficulties.
Fair enough.
that, you're not really taking, I mean, a 1 year contract means you're going out for essentially a full RFP every year.
Right.
And
going to-
whereas
we don't need that.
3 or 5 years, you're saying, provided everything's going well, and I think there's some advantage to having someone, I think it's probably disadvantageous to have a new lawyer every year
Yeah. you need-
for
Absolutely.
5
Yeah,
years
you need-
straight,
you need
and
to
that's
fill
not
this
gonna
one, too.
work.
Yeah, that's.
So I would say 5 years, but with the
Annual.
the annual renewal and with the 30, 90 day provision still there, so that there's room for.
Maybe
everybody.
another 30.
So you're right, it doesn't
Fine.
matter if you.
That sounds all right.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, even if you make it so you serve at the pleasure of the board,
Sure.
it's even less.
Yeah, there's
it's
still
less than-
opportunities to separate relationship. That's not everybody contract.
But that's realistically indicating what we want, which is someone to work with us over a period of time. We don't really want to churn.
Exactly.
5 years gives people a sense that we're looking to build a relationship. up with them.
In the sense of security that they really don't have.
Well, yeah.
You want to speak?
Well said.
We all want, right? Up here. There we go. So.
All municipal lawyers know this. So do the engineers.
Of course.
A motion. Of these RFPs.
If the board's satisfied with the RFPs that I put out, I can start the process of sending it to the city. The city's gonna run it through purchasing and the lawyers to review it. And they'll have plenty of review before it actually goes out. And then my thought was that if they go that way, I'll also give a notification to the firm so that I'm familiar with, that I could get proposals from. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's great, because I think when you finally send those up, put down the list of companies that you think should be notified. That's a good start. And then also, send it to both city and town, because for the engineer and for the flow study, our city engineer should look at both of those, of course. Tom, and then for the lawyer, both probably the department should look at the contract for.
So what's a projection on that? So then you actually won't go out probably till the beginning of May then, by the time you go through everything.
I've never done it this way, so we're just gonna move it
What
forward.
do you say? So like, you would have a response till beginning of June, something like that.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Right, the dates in the net letters I sent are gonna be changed, you know,
Right.
so in the time.
But well, how long do you need to get people to respond? They don't need long.
Typically, you put out in 2 or 3 weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
2 weeks to time.
so he,
So if we can get it out there, then.
Yeah.
we get out by then.
So by the time we get the RFPs out, we're probably looking at, a couple of weeks down the road, maybe 3, then 3 weeks to respond, that's 6 weeks, back to the board for scoring, maybe another week or 2, you know, so that
We're looking to
we
meet
get months easily.
Does the city have an in-house engineer and in-house?
Yes. Yeah.
Share what the town.
However you want to do it, just want to make sure that you.
Yeah, we just do things differently. in
that
terms
you
of
guys have an
engineering.
opportunity to.
Yeah.
Go ahead, or edit some.
I'm good. You can go to old business.
Any old business? Can I go back, because I missed a chance to ask a question about the operating budget? It looks from the operating budget like we're not using any utilities. And I think that must be a lag in billing.
Yeah.
Is that what that is? Electric and power, I mean, it's good news, right? We're not using very much electric power, we're not using any fuel, oil or gas. I'm guessing that's a billing
I
lag.
think I just got a bill for oil and gas like 60 bucks. But the bills for, because we haven't been, now we're getting into the heating system, hit the heating system. So it didn't have that, but you look at the electric power, yeah, it just hasn't gone through yet. But we've got a bill 75,831 for electric.
Yep.
So, that was a month ago.
And the other thing too, since we're paying all of your, electric bills, are you getting? I want to say that when we've done like a multi-month audit with Central Hudson. I think we pulled your bills into that as well.
Okay.
And we just did a complete audit, it's no trust but verify role. And we had a lot of problems building Central Hudson along with everybody else in Hudson Valley. So that man also came up for the days as well. Okay. So that's not a bad thing. But the money, paid them children. We asked for their leadership to fund the city on a couple of different occasions, and they advised us. Because there was some errors and still some errors.
That is not terribly surprising.
Exactly.
Any new business, number 10?
So on new business, I had circulated a retainer agreement, which was the same as the old retainer agreement. We had prepared in 2019. And I had made it just through May 7th based on RFP for Randy. But I guess if we change the date to June meeting. And so the hourly rate is $195 an hour. The only difference here between the older retainer agreement had wasn't there for litigation, but right now we're not involved. So, but that doesn't look like we're going to. We should have that. The new resolution.
So Jim, I'm curious because we've got the chairperson signing this. So does the chairperson then have some sort of warranty? Because that's kind of odd. Again, it's one of those practices.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way we've always done it. I mean,
The chairperson has no pecuniary authority unto themselves, and the board doesn't.
Right.
So again, is that part of the administrative role? Because we do have in the town, there's got to be somebody who has warrant authority and the city. The chairperson themselves does. So I found this really odd and practices. We're gonna get into this during the IMA working group, but
and
this wouldn't be binding, Mark. This would not.
I don't disagree with you. That's the way it's always been done. But that's a good question. I mean, the bills have always been submitted to the city and the city has paid the bills, on a warrant, on a voucher we've submitted to the city, and I don't know.
Who has warrant authority for,
Yeah, typically the supervisor and controller.
so if for the city, it's only the mayor. Yeah, so maybe we find that out and we can do all of these future agreements co-signed by the supervisor and the mayor. I think that.
Yeah, we can. I mean, I guess that's a good question.
First day I started, if I sign that, I was like, what? I'm signing what? Oh.
I mean, that's a good question, because we've never,
I mean, it's just kind of odd when you think about it, right? Just, you know, being really, really simple here. So I have my council member who says, who signed this on behalf of the city? Ready up my mayor. Who's spending the city's money? So I think it'd be more appropriate if we just change our practice now.
Yeah.
All future contract. On agreement, service agreements have to be signed. Both the Mayor and council supervisor, I assume you have one.
Help me understand though, who approves the JW budget?
So the budget, for the city. First it goes to the board then presumably makes a recommendation. It then goes into the city's budget. And our council approves the joint water piece of it as part of the city's budget. And, you know, understanding that roughly half of it is responsibility.
so that's one of the,
Under our agreement.
one of the last amendments to the IMA was to change the dates by which the joint, to move up the joint water boards date to approve a budget because of the scheduling for the town. Because the town's budget is due slightly earlier than the city's budget.
So the JWB board approves a budget, but it doesn't really have any authority until both the city and the town.
No, in the way I view it, based on the board's real authorities, they make a recommendation, a joint
right.
recommendation to the town board. And city council. That's the information.
I can't remember in the IMA, is there a clause in the IMA that authorizes the board? to
Yeah, and a
adopt?
lot of those IMA dates, Jim, are old and just not useful. This is why one of our participants comes up and says, where's how come the favorite one is the old AUD, now called the AFR, the annual financial report. I think it said it was due February 1st, March
Yeah.
1st. About, we haven't even closed our books on March 1st. So, you know, let alone have a state report due. And so that comes up as a point of contention. Yeah, I didn't accept it. Change the conversation.
Any other new business? The next meeting is May 7th, 2024.
I would just like to talk to the board quickly in an executive session. I just want to inform something on the client.
Do we need to approve this container for?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we do a penalty change and make it at least June 7th because of the timeline we just talked about for the other articles.
And also, and to amend it to include the signatories of the supervisor of bank.
Yes.
Okay, so Tommy second.
Yep.
All in favor?
You got it. You got it.
Yeah, it's nice to see you.
Yes, that's it.
It's not evidence. You also, I'll be in touch with you. Bye.